We duped you.
Yeah, the boys all put all these weights on, and I thought it looked quite heavy, but actually in percentage terms, mine was way heavier. About 4:30 in the morning, I had a weight across my chest with these two giant rowers trying to lift it off me, because it was actually quite heavy. Welcome to On the Water here at Henley Royal Regatta. Myself, Jess, Eddie. I'm joined by Mohamed Sbihi. We've had a damp one this year at Henley, but we're now looking towards Paris Olympics in a few weeks' time. Mo and myself will chat through what we think is going to happen there. Mo, it's been an exciting week here at Henley. We've seen club rowers, junior rowers, but we're now looking at these international superstars. Some of them have come and raced here before going on to Paris. What is that going to look like now in the next few weeks?
It's going to be a really busy period for them. So they've obviously just finished racing here. They've got 2 and a bit weeks actually before they start their Olympic campaign, their Olympic journey. Between now and then, they might have a series of activities that they need to do, like kitting out. They might have a lot of media, press announcements that they have to fulfill, and also fit in some final bits of training whilst they are race ready, as evidently shown on the water here. There's still a lot of things that they need to do between now and the Olympic Games starting in Paris.
So some of these superstars have come and raced here. I'll pick out one, Ollie Zeidler. He won this morning in the Diamonds, the men's single scull. Is that part of his training program? Or what training does he do between now and Paris? It's not long.
It's not long at all, and he's probably not going to do that much training between now and Paris. We already spoke of the kitting out, some of the media activities that you have to do. It's also a transition day where you have to get your equipment out to Paris. You also have to get into the village or the accommodation you're staying in. There's a lot of logistics that happen between now and getting back out on the water, and it can be distracting if you don't judge it right. Having never raced Henley in the year of the Olympics, I don't know what he's going to go through. And it is slightly strange that Henley being so close to the Olympic Games this year, Paris isn't 6 weeks down the line, it is 2 and a bit weeks before they all kick off in earnest. And there are so many races in the men's single sculls. So it's going to be fascinating to see.
Interesting, both you and I have raced here in our big boats. I've raced in the Remnant, you've raced the Grand and Stewards. And those crews, you don't generally see them coming here and racing in Olympic year. We do have some international crews, but there are many crews that are going on and finishing their season now and not on to Paris. So yeah, I think that kind of tapestry of different crews is really interesting to see.
It really is. And you spoke about some of the big crews. The thing that we are all, when you're on this Olympic journey and you're on this program that is placed out for you to peak and perform on the Olympic finals that week, that's when you're meant to be at your fastest. And racing here at Henley can be a little bit of a distraction. So I know of the teams and what the training they'll be doing. They'll be doing some race pieces. They'll be fine-tuning over the next 10 days before they actually get into Paris and acclimatise themselves to the water. So all Ollie has done, if we pick out Ollie again as the superstar, he shifted his peaking, his race tweaking, his final qualification, kind of if you were to refer to other sports, the final track. He's done that just a week or 2 weeks earlier. Will it pay off? We'll find out.
The Olympics. You and I have both raced there many times, 3 times each. How does it differ from racing here at Henley?
There's more boats in the race, which is the number one thing that is very different. It's not crew versus crew, it's crew versus 5 other crews in the final especially. You have rounds to get through. You also, which is I think, having used the repechage a couple of times in my Olympic campaign, you have a backup option if you don't get your first race right. So if you turn up here on a Wednesday and you don't get it right, that's you done. You're not going to get in the final. Whereas in an Olympic campaign, you've got a last chance saloon called the repechage. It can be ferocious, it can be really intense, and it can be very, very stressful. You win that, you're in the final, and you can then go on and compete for medals. But there are huge differences between here and the Olympics. And of course, when I raced in Tokyo, we didn't have glorious crowds. It did rain like this every now and then, but it was really hot. You've got some conditions, you've got new locations. But you've also got an Olympic venue. So you've got accreditation, you've got media protocols that you have to do. You might be in a village, or your accommodation might be a long way away. I remember us when we were in racing in London, we caught the boat to our Olympic course. We would catch a boat down the River Thames whilst everyone else was coming in from Royal Holloway, so a little bit further afield. But there are so many differences. But for many of the crews here, race especially in the club and the intermediate events, that's their Olympics. They've just experienced what we would be experiencing in the Olympics, albeit against other nations and this massive spectacle.
Right, Olympic rowing race. It's 2,000 meters. What are you thinking on that start line?
Just can't wait for the buzzer to go off.
You're joking. I'm more thinking, oh my God, this is a long way.
No, because once the green light comes on, so it's lights, not a flag, which is a big difference. And maybe if you're attuned to that from Henley, but once you're in control, you can then start doing what you've been practicing over the last 4 to 8 years. The moments building up are incredibly stressful. The Olympics to Olympians and Olympic athletes across all sports, it gets amplified up. The dial goes way beyond 10 in terms of stress, the pressure, and sometimes it's all that you put on yourself. You might be thinking that there are pressure points outside, so the media, your coach, opposition, but sometimes it's what's happening between here that can impact your week at the Olympics. So a lot of crews have a week worth of schedule of racing, so it is, and it's also distracting. There's this famous quote about the Olympic Village and the food and how you can lose your Olympics by eating too much food. And you never stayed in the village before competition. I did, and I know what that's like. I'm not saying that's the only reason why we lost.
You still got a bronze medal in the Tokyo
We still
Games.
got a bronze medal, but when you turn up to the Olympic Village, the food hall is huge, and
It's
there's so many different types of food for you to sample, and you're almost like, well, I'll have this today, and I'll have that a little bit later, and it can get a little bit distracting. So it's a lot of it's about refraining your mind, bringing it in, focusing, compartmentalizing. When you're on the water, you're there to do a job. When you're off the water, soak it up, enjoy the fact you're at the Olympics. It's so unique, but also realize that you're there to do business. So when you need to turn it on, turn it on.
The Olympic Village, everyone hears about it. What's it really like? What's the most weird thing you've done inside the Olympic Village that people might not know beyond that barrier?
Okay, so there's a couple of things that I want to point out about the Olympic Village. One of them is rowers are seen as really big human beings.
You are really big.
I'm 6'8",
yeah.
and there might be a 6'10" rower out there, and Ollie Zeidler is a colossal of a man. He will look average next to some of the basketball players, male and female volleyball players. It's astonishing. It's like the best of every single sport is all in one location when you're in the Olympic Village. It can be distracting, like I said. You can see superstars. I remember seeing Novak Djokovic. I remember seeing Michael Phelps and seeing these superstars and going, wow. But then they're just like us. They're sat down having an Olympic in the Olympic Village.
I can't play tennis as well as the Williams sisters that we saw in London 2012.
There are also some cool things. So like there are these beds that have got the press around them, being designed to stop the athletes from having fun. They're essentially there to be recycled. All they're there for is so that when the Olympics finish, they can be recycled and it's good for the environment. And then you've got this added challenge where it's a little bit unique, where when you finish competing and you can go out and party and you can have a little bit of fun. And I remember distinctly, you and I, we got back at about 4 o'clock in the morning, we went to the food hall, because it's 24/7. That's the other thing about the food hall. Whatever time you came in from your night out in Rio, go to the food hall.
Piece of pizza, an ice cream, and then what do we do next?
And then you get like an isotonic drink to make sure that you're hydrated for the next morning, ready to get going. What did we decide to go and do? Go to the gym that's open 24/7 and have a weightlifting competition. Me, you, and Pete Lambert.
Yeah.
And we duped you.
Yeah, the boys all put all these weights on, and I thought it looked quite heavy, but actually in percentage terms, mine was way heavier. About 4:30 in the morning, I had a weight across my chest with these 2 giant rowers trying to lift it off me because it was actually quite heavy.
Yeah, there is a lot of that, but there's also, for the athletes that are competing, it can be distracting. You see these athletes having a bit of a jolly, having a bit of a laugh, but we were always incredibly respectful. We knew that there were some athletes still competing. And another thing that I love, and it's a sense that you don't get when you're at a single sport world championships, is multi-sport. You can support other teams. You come together as this little family that's called Team GB across all of the Olympic sports. You all train in different locations. Some athletes, especially on the track and field, they train in America, in Canada or in Mexico, and they come together and you're all wearing the same kit. You have color-coded days. It's a bit like school, it's a bit like school uniform. It can be a little bit restrictive, but there's nothing better than competing, winning, or doing really well, getting a medal. Your Team GB teammates come up to you and say, well done. That infuses the team, that pushes them on to win medals. And then in turn, I remember going to watch so many of the sports in the Olympic part watching hockey, supporting them in their semi-final and then their final in their iconic gold medal. So those are the moments that you maybe don't see when you're on the other side of the TV and you just see us racing. There's a lot of fun that can happen in the Olympic Village.
We saw so many of those athletes racing here last year. Of course, it's very hard to double up and race the same Olympic year as Henley, but we can't wait to welcome them back here in 2025. Hopefully showing us their medals, and we'll probably get them here in the rain with us. Or hopefully next year it's not raining.
Hopefully next year it's not raining, and hopefully they've got some fantastic medals with a little piece of the Eiffel Tower in. I am so jealous of this. Yeah, so they've got a little piece on the back, because each medal is a little bit different with the Olympics. It's got a piece of the Eiffel Tower, and it's fantastic. I think that if you can win a gold medal version of that, it will be glistening in the glorious sunshine that we'll promise you next year.
So Mo, this is your first year as a steward. The sun has not been shining for you. How have you found it?
Well, the only way is up, right? It can only get warmer and sunnier for all of the years that I'm going to be a steward. It's been fantastic. It's really given me a sense of purpose during this week. I've competed here for 10 plus years, and I always realised, I was always so focused on competition, and I realised that all of the stuff that happens down the bank, it's a bit of a distraction, so you never really embrace and fully enjoy. And then since stopping rowing, I haven't obviously competed here again, and I don't want to say I've been a bit lost during the week, but it's such an honour. It's given me a purpose. It's going to be a stable and a constant for the rest of my life. I was maybe ignorant is the right word of all of the work and hard work that goes on by all of the staff, all of the fellow stewards to get this regatta up and running. And it's been really challenging this year. There's been loads of things. It's been very wet, as we know, but the racing has remained same, high class, really vibrant, really strong, and it's illuminated us through in this really dark ground.
Well, saying that, the sun's coming out almost, so what a great week we've had.
Fantastic.
Thanks for joining Henley on the Water with us. If you've missed any of the racing this week, do not fear. Catch up on all the racing on the YouTube channel.